Welcome back here on TSL today. Giovanni Heater alongside Carter Hill with you. Well, we had such a spirited conversation in the last segment. We just realized during the break we just weren't quite ready to give up the transfer portal talk yet. And hey, it's the biggest day of the year for the transfer portal. So, Carter, let's kind of dive back into that conversation. And we promised we'll talk a little bit of basketball, but they covered it in the podcast as well. So definitely go give a listen to that. And we will cover basketball at the end. Carter, a little more portal talk. What do you got?
Nobody else has entered the portal for Virginia Tech, but actually, as of 5 minutes ago, they did extend another offer to somebody.
Okay.
And that was, let's see here, Kent State grad transfer Montre Miller, who is a cornerback. And that could really, really help out with their depth right there, because with Armani Chapman leaving and with DJ Harvey leaving, you're going to have Dorian Strong and Mansour Delane as your starting 1 and 2. But you need some depth. And he was a starter with the Golden Flashes, a solid team in the MAC this past season. So if you could add somebody like that, I think that would make sense. Actually, and I don't mean to talk too much here, Chris talked about on the podcast today, he thinks Virginia Tech is going to have to rebuild through the transfer portal by bringing in guys from the Group of 5 and the FCS level. Because like we talked about in the last conversation, what Power 5 guy who contributed heavily is going to want to go to Virginia Tech, particularly on the offensive side of the ball?
Very, very, very true. One thing we talked about during the break that I thought was a really interesting point that I wanted to bring up on the show. If you're able to, and it's so probably not going to happen, so I don't want people to get their hopes up, but if you were able to get a guy, say DJ Uiagalelei, but forget him. Say honestly like a Drew Pine or somebody that wasn't cutting it at one of those bigger schools, wants to drive, or a guy like Hudson Card, who was never a starter at Texas, but played at the University of Texas as a quarterback.
What game did he play at? What game did he play in for Texas this year? He
know.
played in the Alabama game.
Okay.
He's the one that came off the bench and almost beat Alabama.
So there you go.
I didn't mean to cut you off.
No,
I'm sorry,
you're fine.
Go ahead.
But you bring in a quarterback or a receiver or something with star power, it's going to attract other people to come. So you ask the question, well, if DJ Uiagalelei comes here, he's not going to have anyone to throw the ball to. How's it going to be any better? All of a sudden, a star quarterback like that comes to Virginia Tech, and then these receivers that are not necessarily these stars. I'm not saying like these top-notch guys, but you're going to get a lot more interest than you probably would have without him. He can bring people with him. Guys are in the talks. It happens in free agency in the pros all the time. Hey, yo, let's go play here together. Let's go build this. And they call it in basketball like a super team or whatever. Or in football, players actively recruiting each other, like Von Miller trying to get Odell Beckham to go play for the Bills and stuff like that, and actively recruiting on Twitter and social media and whatnot. So you could have a guy that you bring in attract other players.
100%. 100%. You touched on it perfectly with the professional sports model. We're seeing it right now with baseball. And I got to give Kyle, our producer behind the scenes, credit. He brought up this phenomenal point in between segments. And with the professional, yeah, absolutely. The professional sports side of things, we're seeing it now with Aaron Judge. He is the top free agent this year in Major League Baseball. And there are rumors that he is going to sign with a team in the next week or two because he wants a winning team around him. Of course, if he signs back with the Yankees, they're going to have a winning team around him. The Giants, for instance, don't have that right now. The Giants are a top suitor for him. If he signs with the Giants, he wants to give San Francisco enough time to build a team around him. What has always happened with LeBron when he goes somewhere? Cleveland, Miami, back to Cleveland, LA. They build a super team around him. I'm not saying Virginia Tech's going to build a super team, but if you bring in let's say Hudson Card from Texas, I don't even know if Virginia Tech has interest in him, but that type of player, all of a sudden, it's a whole lot more attractive for Ali Jennings III to come to Blacksburg.
Yeah.
Because somebody can throw to him. I think Grant Wells still has the talent to make that work with some of those top receivers. But again, perception is reality. The perception this year was 3-8. The reality was 3-8. That's it.
Interesting. That was bars. That was bars right there, Carter. All right. Is our portal conversation done? Can we talk a little basketball?
We're good with portal conversations, yeah.
All right. Heading into basketball, Virginia Tech men's side takes down the 18th ranked North Carolina Tar Heels, handing them their 4th consecutive loss. Hokies 1-0 in the ACC. Man, it's a good time to be a Hokie basketball fan.
Really good time. For Virginia Tech to
Just
knock
puts
off,
a smile on your face.
really
doesn't
good
it?
time to be a Virginia Tech basketball fan. For them to knock off North Carolina at home yesterday, it's still a big win.
You gotta love it.
I know the Tar Heels
seeing
aren't
that baby blue lose.
I know. Well, I was not there yesterday. Kyle and I were in Knoxville. I heard the atmosphere, and you can speak on this more than I can. The atmosphere was incredible.
Oh, it was rocking. It was rocking. I called the game, and it was very comparable to when you and I called the UVA game last year. I mean, just sell out Castle. Castle Guard was in full effect. Place was absolutely juiced. It was awesome.
Orange out.
Awesome.
Very
Orange out.
orange. Very orange.
very
a little
orange.
bit of Carolina blue, I'm sure.
It was
mixed in
good.
there.
It was a good 20%. I mean, Carolina, they travel well, and they're willing to go to the game.
Do they travel well, or do they just have
Lots of fans everywhere. Bandwagons. Maybe.
I mean, you said what we're all thinking, but no, North Carolina, they weren't playing well. Even they didn't have Armando Bacot yesterday. That had a big factor. I'm sure it did. He's their big guy down low, preseason ACC Player of the Year.
Yeah.
But they weren't playing well before they lost him. I mean, they were already losing 3 games. They lost to Indiana.
I don't think Tech scores 30 points inside the paint or outscores them by 30 in the paint with Bacot in the game.
No doubt. I mean, look at the matchups last year with Armando Bacot. He had a quote-unquote rough game against Virginia Tech in the ACC tournament semifinals. And if I'm remembering correctly, he still had a double-double. Same with the game in Chapel Hill.
That's what he does.
Same with the game in Blacksburg, because Keve Luma adjusted pretty well against them after that first half in Chapel Hill last year. But this North Carolina team, they lost to Indiana last week. They lost 2 games in the PK 80, I believe was the tournament out in Portland. They lost to both Iowa State and Alabama in that 4 overtime game. And quite frankly, I watched this game on Thanksgiving. They were very fortunate to beat a Portland team. And that's not where North Carolina wants to be. They were close with College of Charleston in the Dean Dome, and now College of Charleston beat the Hokies. So I guess it's a common opponent, but you can't really dog them too much there. But they're close with the College of Charleston. Nothing had really been clicking for North Carolina. And Chris brought up a fantastic point on the podcast this morning. North Carolina last year made this awesome run in the NCAA tournament. But where were they seeded? Do you remember?
8.
They were an 8 seed. They pretty much brought back the same team minus Brady Manick. And
Brady Manick was really good.
They added Pete Nance from Northwestern.
I think Manick's better than Nance.
I agree. But I'm not
yesterday
shocked.
Manick was carving up the Hokies last year.
Because what? Carolina was preseason number 1 in the country?
Yeah.
I'm not surprised that they're not a top 10, top 15 team. I'd be surprised if they don't make the NCAA tournament. Their fans are losing their mind on Twitter right now.
I'm sure.
Not an NCAA tournament team. I'd be shocked if they weren't in the big dance. I don't think they're any more than a top 20 team. Because ironically enough, just because like my mom went to Carolina, and I have a lot of family that went to Carolina, so I watch a lot of their games. I actually have watched them in pretty much every single game except for yesterday's game. And they don't look the part of a top 10, top 15 team. They're probably top 20 at best.
Neither does Gonzaga. Same thing, in my opinion.
I haven't seen a lot of Gonzaga.
Gotcha.
But
well, that's just a conversation for another day. ACC Player of the Week goes to none other than the guy that they've been calling El Nino. Justin Mutz, Jay Muddy, 21.5 points a game, 10.0 rebounds a game, shooting the ball 65.5% from the field. All in the last week. Jay Muddy, ACC Player of the Week. Nice honor for him. Well-deserved. And went off for 27 points and 11 boards yesterday, on top of shooting the ball 100% from the free throw line, which he's been struggling with. Granted, he only took 2 free throws. And 100% from
deep,
downtown.
Right? Yeah.
1 for 1 on the day. But he also shot the ball from the floor 75% and scored 27 points. That's crazy to think. 75% from the floor, and only 2 of those points came from the charity stripe.
Yeah. Well, Justin Mutz has to be that guy down low for Virginia Tech. Grant Basile is still coming on for the Hokies. The grad transfer from Wright State clearly isn't what Keve Luma was. Now, I think he can get close to that point, but it's still coming on for him, getting used to the system, especially at the ACC level. But Justin Mutz is, as John Rothstein likes to say, he's that glue guy for Virginia Tech. And it really is more than a glue guy for Virginia Tech. When he can put up 27 points, he's more than a glue guy. I mean, he's what makes the engine go for the Hokies.
He was a glue guy. I think last year he was a glue guy. He was not scoring 27 points in a game a year ago. He did have a triple-double last year.
He's not going to put up 27 points every single night. But when you can put up that type of performance against the mighty Carolina Blue at Castle Coliseum, when the whole country's watching that one.
I'm calling this now. On the show, I was talking with Will about this off air. 10 years from now, as long as Mike Young is still the head coach, 10 years from now, you will see Justin Mutz on the coaching staff.
Yeah.
I think he's that kind of a player. He
Mike
loves
Young,
Virginia Tech
Mike Young
so much.
raves about Justin Mutz's basketball IQ, too, and how much he loves the game of basketball.
And he'd be willing to come back here because he loves it here.
Yeah, why is he here?
I mean, he's going to go do his thing. He's going to go test the waters in the NBA. If he has to play overseas a little bit, whatever. I'm saying 10 years from now, he'll be on the coaching staff.
Yes, Kyle is. We'll speak in the mic for him. What do you got?
Well, I just wanted to add that Justin Mutz's IQ, not just for basketball, but in general.
That's true. He's a genius.
Yes, that's true. Yeah. So Kyle said his IQ in general is through the roof. I mean, he's on his third degree?
Something like that.
Fourth degree?
I don't know.
He's doing something with educational psychology.
So I don't want to say it. I'll say it, but I don't know. I'm prefacing it that I don't know if it's 100% factual, but I saw that he's got a bachelor and 2 masters, and now he's working on his second bachelor's.
Yeah, he is.
Okay,
he's gotten.
So there you go.
Yeah, so he's gotten. That's right. Bachelor, 2 masters on his second bachelor's.
Dude, I'm like,
he was at High Point, got a degree from. I think he's gotten
halfway through the first bachelor's.
I know.
Not even.
And you're like, get me out of school. So
let me just talk about sports.
Yeah, let me just talk about sports. No, I know he got a degree from Delaware. He was at High Point before that, and now he's on his second or third degree at Virginia Tech. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Why are you laughing?
We love sports. All right.
Oh,
anything
sports.
else? Oh, women's side.
Yeah, let's get to the
Ranked
women's
7th
side.
in the country, highest in program history. I mean, I don't want to beat a dead horse here because we talk about it. I don't want to beat a dead treadmill horse because we just continue to talk about it. But they're fantastic, and they're just very, very good.
They are just very, very good. So
you called the game at Tennessee.
Kyle
I didn't get to watch it because I was doing the men's game.
So Kyle and I went to Tennessee yesterday. It was a really good experience. Kyle, if you want, like put the camera on this one and come to the 4th chair, and you can talk in the mic if you want and kind of talk about this. Because we talked about it a little bit on the podcast this morning. I thought it was very, very unique to see Virginia Tech play in an arena filled with close to 9,000 people. Here comes Kyle. Yeah, close to 9,000 people. I don't know. What did you think about the atmosphere?
I put 4 up.
Okay, yeah.
4.
Okay, so what did you think about the atmosphere in Knoxville? I thought it was
just injected myself in this podcast. This is hilarious.
Fairness, I said
How
come
was
over
Knoxville?
here. Yeah, how was
Let's keep
Knoxville?
her on
It
the
was
rails.
great. Well, as a New Yorker, Gio, going to Tennessee for the first time was cool. I'll tell you the hospitality at Knoxville. So thank you again to the people over at the Lady Vols organization, because the hospitality at Knoxville was fantastic. But when it comes to basketball, it was just as exciting. The stadium, Thompson Bowling Arena, is incredible. 21,500 they hold. It used
Was
to
it that
be,
much, really?
Well, it wasn't in attendance, but that's how much they hold. I believe the number was upwards of 8,000-9,000.
Yeah, it was right around 9,000.
And so we were talking with Eric, the SID for the women's team there, and he mentioned it used to be 25,000 seats at Thompson Bowling Arena. They added some skybox seats and stuff like that, so it went down to 21.5, which is still gargantuan for a basketball arena.
Yeah.
And so the expected attendance for a really, really popular cult following Tennessee Lady Vols squad was 8,000 to 9,000-ish. And we were remarking that that is a sold out Castle Coliseum.
Yeah.
So that tells you how big a basketball game
it was extremely loud in there for the final possession. This is a game Virginia Tech led from start to finish. We talked about it last night. We talked about it on the phone. But it was one of those where it was like the Hokies were up 2, then they were up 4, then they were up 6, back down to 3. Tennessee was always within striking distance. They just couldn't strike. Had 2 opportunities to tie the game within the last 10 seconds. Just couldn't do it, and Virginia Tech holds on. Didn't have Ashley Owusu. It looks like they're not going to have Ashley Owusu for quite some time. Kenny Brooks told Chris Hirons yesterday she'll be out indefinitely. Of course, the grad transfer All-American from Maryland, another solid women's basketball program out there in College Park. But Kiana Traylor stepped up.
They're showing they can win without her.
Absolutely. Well, they're equipped to with Kiana Traylor, who typically comes off the bench. She's not going to start. She comes off, she started yesterday, put up 18 points and facilitated the offense extremely well with Georgia Amore out for a good chunk of the first half because she got in foul trouble.
And might I add, too, when it came down to the matchups we saw, again, in Tennessee, a program that's historically successful, they were struggling this season. But in terms of personnel, Tamari Key down low, their center, is an accolade-winning center at 6'6", probably the only girl Liz Kitley has seen all season long that has more physicality than her. So it was going to come down to card play because sure enough, Tamari Key and Liz Kitley kind of canceled each other out. I don't think either of them had double figures in scoring. So yeah, it did come down to guard play, and we didn't have Kayana Traylor. So the guards still outperformed Tennessee. It was really cool to see.
Well, it was the second consecutive year that Liz Kitley had some trouble with Tamari Key. Kitley only put up 6 points. She had a big bucket late to really put this game away at that moment. A couple missed free throws and a turnover that was pretty controversial. Got the Lady Vols back in the game. But Kitley responded when need be. The big story is Kayana Traylor. I mean, in the starting lineup now, 18 points. I mentioned with Amore with her foul trouble. Not only was she now playing a bigger role, one she probably should be playing and probably would be playing at 95% of the other schools around the country, but she also, I mean, she stepped up at the point guard role too. And says, I mean, it says everything about this Virginia Tech women's basketball team and the culture that Kenny Brooks has instilled in Blacksburg.
Carter, I think you've hit all the points. I'm going to go back to producing.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. We got to wrap this up.
We're going to wrap up the show right there. It was fantastic, Kyle.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for being on. That'll do it for us on TSL today. We apologize for going a little bit long today. Just so much to cover. Men's and women's basketball absolutely killing it. On the other side of things, the football transfer portal is certainly a big storyline to cover. So again, we apologize for going long. Hope you made it home safe on your drive. Thanks so much for listening. TSL today on a Monday, and we'll see you on Wednesday.